Hi, happy Saturday. Thank you for joining me on a Saturday afternoon. I'm so excited to be here. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up, say hello, even if you're watching the replay. I'd also like to make sure my microphone is working properly. So I'm so glad that you're here on a Saturday because I know that it means a lot to you if you are here on a Saturday right before the holidays. And I'm just happy to not be working this weekend. So I thought I would do this. What we're going to learn today is the 3 reasons why we overeat. Now, as a reminder, the reason why we are all overweight is because we're overeating. So simple, right? So I am just going to quickly go over this. I want to just have a quick disclaimer here. I haven't been doing that on my Facebook Lives, and I thought maybe I should be doing that. Number 1, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any medical advice. I'm not telling you what to do here. I'm just sharing my thoughts. The opinions that I express are mine and not of my employer. And if you have type 1 diabetes, you just move right along. Okay, I'm not talking to you. So I thought I would just get that out there. So here's our before and after. Where you are right now is you are in a tight flight suit, right? And where you want to go, is over here to feel confident and comfortable in your flight suit. Now, there's this thing in between, and this is called the river of misery. And we make lots of failures in here. So what I want you to learn today is the reason why you are in this tight flight suit, okay? Because I think what I'm going to teach you is different than what you've learned in the past. Now, I've tried every diet out there. I started EMS about 25 years ago. I can't even believe it's been that long. During that time, you guys, I gained 100 pounds. Now, I have had a roller coaster of a career for sure, but I have been flying for the last, I've been saying 19 years. It's technically 18. It will be 19 this year. So I don't want to overestimate how long I've been flying, but I was able to lose 50 pounds while flying full time. And I discovered life coaching about 5 years ago, and I lost my weight about 2 years ago. And I all of a sudden realized oh my gosh, I think I could be a life coach for people in EMS in the HEMS industry because we need it. Because we're not taught some of these things. And I would rather you spending your brain energy and all of your knowledge that you have available on patient care instead of on quick gimmicks and tricks to lose weight. So this is what I'm going to teach you today is the 3 reasons why we overeat. Now, my little chart here has been finicky the last couple of days. Hopefully we don't have any catastrophes here. So here's the problem. We are overeating. Why do we overeat? We overeat for 3 reasons. The first reason is because we experience overhunger. The second reason is because of over-desire. And the third reason is because of our emotions. Now, ask yourself, do you consider yourself an emotional eater? I ask this of all my clients and they all say, no, I'm not an emotional eater. We find out later in our journey that you are in fact an emotional eater. Oh, hi, Becky. Hi, Brock. Nice to see you guys here. So you're probably wondering, what is overhunger and what is over-desire? And I'm going to tell you about it, but I'm going to tell you this first. I was doing was creating an outline for the live today, and I was rambling on and on. I love talking about this stuff so much. I could just go on for hours and hours, and I'm kind of a talker. So what I decided to do today was just go real simple with these explanations, okay? And then I'm going to do a Facebook Live, 3 of them next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, where I'm going to talk in depth about each one of these items. Because honestly, I don't want to take your whole Saturday because I can get off like on a crazy tangent, like nobody's business when I'm talking about this stuff, because I love it. I almost love it more than I like taking care of patients. I know that seems crazy, but it is the truth. I love this stuff so much. So the first thing we're going to talk about is overhunger. Do you hear my daughter screaming in the background? Yeah, sorry about that. Family's all home. So overhunger comes from our hormones. The 3 hormones that I want you to learn about, and listen, after this, you can go Google it. Look up the information yourself. I don't need to tell you all the nitty-gritty details, right? We need to learn about insulin, ghrelin, and leptin. These 3 hormones are so important. And honestly, I did every diet out there. I'd never heard any of this. And I'm a medical person. You would think I would know about insulin. Turns out I didn't. But here's what you need to know right now about these 3 hormones. Number 1, insulin is a fat storage hormone. So every time you eat, your insulin goes up. When our insulin is elevated, we are not able to burn fat. We are in what is called a fat storage state. And if you have a tight flight suit, you want to be in a fat burning state, right? So we have to figure out a way to keep our insulin low and get it regulated. I know that sounds crazy. You're probably asking, how does that happen? Well, I'm going to tell you later on in the solution. The next hormone that you need to learn about is ghrelin. And ghrelin is a hormone that's secreted by the lining of our stomach, and it lets us know when we are hungry. And then the second hormone, or actually the third, is leptin. Now, leptin is secreted by your fat cells. Now, think about this. If we have extra fat on our body, stored fuel, why are we hungry all the time? Isn't that weird to think about? Like, if you have this stored energy, why isn't our body accessing it more? And why do we just keep eating? Here's what is crazy, you guys. When you eat all the time, your insulin is elevated all the time. And when you have chronically elevated insulin, it blocks the signal of leptin in your brain. So you can't even hear the signal to tell you when you feel satisfied. So what do? Well, we do what our parents told us. We eat all of our food. We clean our plate, right? We stop eating when we feel like completely overfull. And that is why we are always overeating, because we can't even hear the signal. Another thing that I want you to know about is when we're hungry all the time, and have you ever felt hangry? You know, where you're like angry and hungry all at the same time? That is because you are likely feeling the withdrawal from sugar and flour. We are a sugar burner. That's what I like to call it, sugar burner. Hey, Kathy, nice to see you. I went to paramedic school with Kathy a long time ago, back in Fargo, North Dakota. So fun. So that's overhunger. Okay, comes from our hormones, insulin, leptin, and ghrelin. You got to learn about those, and we have to recalibrate those. The second reason why we overeat is because of over-desire. Now, over-desire is something that we've learned because we have a natural desire to eat food because it helps give us fuel, has us doing things throughout the day. But what we've learned now is to have an over-desire of food, and that comes from dopamine, the neurotransmitter dopamine. Now, the reward pleasure circuit in our brain is very complicated, and I certainly am not going to teach that on a Facebook Live. I don't even understand all of it myself, but what I do know is that the foods that we're now eating, highly processed foods that contain sugar and flour, they cause the greatest insulin increase, and they give us this dopamine hit because it's so concentrated and our brain remembers that. So what happens is we have intense cravings for food, right? We have this over desire for food. We're obsessed about it. We think about it all the time. Are you a foodie? I used to like pride myself in like coming up with these elaborate meals for my family. I didn't have time for other hobbies. So my hobby became feeding my family and like food porn, right? Like spending hours on Pinterest, finding new recipes and trying all this. And I just had this intense over desire for food. And then when we have that desire, what we do, what our brain normally does is answers that desire. And then we overeat. And then we can't tell that we're full. So then we just eat all of the food. Can you see where I'm going with all of this, right? This is the exact way that we gain weight. Also, over desire for food comes from, it's now become our complete source of entertainment and pleasure. I mean, think about every holiday party you go to, every celebration, everything revolves around food. This is not by accident, my friends. This is a very crafted plan by the food industry. Marketers, advertisers, they know exactly what our brains want, right? Our brain wants three things. It wants to seek pleasure, it wants to avoid pain, and it wants to become very efficient at seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So we use food to do that. So then the third reason why we're overeating is because of our emotions, also known as our feelings. Now, this is why I asked in the beginning, do you consider yourself an emotional eater? Now, I never identified as an emotional eater. My thought of an emotional eater was somebody who's like curled up in the corner, like with a blanket, Doritos, and a can of Coke and like sobbing. That, my friends, is not an emotional eater. An emotional eater, or eating for your emotions, is if you're bored at work, you're like, I'll just have a little snack. Or if you're feeling really stressed out, like, oh, I just need something, right? Or if you're trying to avoid any emotions, or if you're also trying to enhance positive emotions, right? That one totally blew my mind. I was like, what? I use food to make me feel even better. How crazy is that? So we eat for emotional reasons. And the reason why we do that, you guys, is because we're using food as a way to buffer or dull that negative emotion that we feel in our body. It's the fastest, quickest way to make us feel better, right? From dopamine, from the over desire. And then we just perpetuate this problem over and over and over. And when we're in it, we don't know how deep we're in it. And you can't even see that you have this over desire for sugar and flour, that you're eating for emotional reasons, right? And that we feel hungry all the time because our hormones are not properly calibrated. So you might be wondering, what is the solution? Help me, Val, help me. I'm going to. So the solution, oh dear. Okay, please don't, okay, cause a real big problem. So the solution is to calibrate our hormones, to reduce our over desire for food, and to experience our emotions. Now, for those of us in healthcare, we've done a pretty good job of denying all of this stuff, right? We eat when we're not hungry. If you're not on a call and it's around a time to eat, we just eat because we don't know when we're going to get our next meal. Our brain thinks if we're hungry now, the hunger will get so intense that we won't be able to function, which is a total lie. Here's another thing we do in EMS and healthcare, right? Is that we eat when we're not hungry. Like I said, we eat because we're upset. We're sad. We just had a bad run. And the best way to distract ourselves from that emotion, right, is to eat something or to just stuff it away. People are always like, I don't understand how you can do your job, how you can see all these things, right? Must be so terrible. And I used to kind of be like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but I can handle it pretty well. I mean, when I go home, I stuff my face and I drink beer. or drink wine or whatever, right? That's how I handled it, was damaging my body. I wasn't really experiencing those emotions. I was too afraid to deal with them. I didn't want to do it. So I just used food because it's the quickest, fastest way to get pleasure in our life. And like I said, we don't know how to experience our emotions. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Okay, so how do you calibrate your hormones? Now, this one makes people upset. And I was the same way, you guys. We have to reduce our sugar and flour. Now, I'm not saying you have to completely take it out forever. If you want to see the quickest weight loss results, you do cut it out completely, like no sugar, not even natural sugar. No sugar, no flour. That means no whole wheat bread, none of that. But in the beginning, what you can do is reduce it, right? Just slowly taper it off because it feels terrible. You don't know how addicted your body is to that feeling of sugar in your body all the time. You don't know how addicted you are until you try to come off of it. So just be careful. Know that you're going to feel terrible emotionally, physically, all of that when you come off of sugar and flour. Here's the biggest one, though. This is what I want everybody to start doing, right? Eliminate snacking. You guys, if you have weight to lose, you do not need to be snacking. Stop it. Seriously, you're not a child. You do not need snacks. I know you want snacks. We all want snacks, but you don't need it. You have snacks on your body, right? The muffin top, the bat wings, all of that. Those are your snacks. You have to learn how your body, actually, you don't have to, your body has to learn how to access its stored fat for fuel, right? What's the number one thing you should be eating when you want to lose weight? Anyone? Anyone want to write it in the comments? I know one of you knows for sure. Your own body fat. That's what you need to be doing. That should be the snack. The other thing that you can do to help calibrate your hormones, remember that's what we're talking about here. I'm just kind of going off a little bit. The other thing you need to do to calibrate your hormones is to really only eat 3 meals per day max. And for some of us, like me, I eat 2 meals per day, sometimes even 1 meal a day. That's because I'm no longer a sugar burner. I am what's called fat adapted. And I'm going to do a Facebook Live probably next week on fat adaptation and how we get there, because it really is brilliant for our industry, or anybody who, like doctors, this is great for them. Anybody who can't always answer their hunger signal, right? We get all freaked out about it, but it's really not a big deal. And then the other way to calibrate your hormones is to really follow the hunger and fullness scale that I've taught you guys before in the past. If you're not familiar with it, just go to, I have a YouTube channel. Isn't that fun? You can go over there. I've uploaded all the Facebook Live videos on there because all the ones that I've done, I did most of them in my closed group, not on my public page. So I did upload all of them over to YouTube, and you can just find me over there at Hems Coach or Valerie Beslin. I think if you search, you can come up with both of them. Okay, so how do we reduce our over desire for food? Well, we have to take a break from being a foodie, from being obsessed with food, to like watching Food Network, to listening food podcasts, to reading food related magazines or books, or, you know, being on Pinterest for hours, finding new recipes. Listen, you need to constrain your food. I like to say hashtag boring food. Constraint is where it's at. Okay, food is fuel for our body, not our entertainment. I know this is such a bummer, but it's the truth. And if you want to be at your natural weight, got to get this part figured out. And then the other thing to help reduce our over desire for food is to plan the food ahead of time and then to eat it, even when you don't want to, right? How many times do you say you're going to eat something and then you're like, oh, I don't feel like eating that? Now, when your kid says that they don't feel like going to school, what do you say? You're like, oh, I see. I understand, but you still have to go. So when your brain sends the signal that says, I don't feel like eating a salad for lunch. You're like, that's okay. You don't have to want to eat the salad to eat the salad. You just have to eat it. You plan that you're going to do it, and that's what you do. When we do that, we really start to have a reduced desire for food because we want something else and we don't answer it and we do something else instead. What we're doing is we're like breaking up that neural pathway that's been created, that if we see something, we want it and we have it. So you know what? You might have to feel a little bit of deprivation. You might have to feel a little bit of disappointment about your food. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so then the third thing we have to do is experience our emotions. I know, we're so used to not doing it, we don't really want to do it because what we don't know is that emotions can't hurt us. We can feel an emotion, which is just a vibration in our body, which comes from our thoughts, right? We just experience it. We don't know. Our brain doesn't know. It's confused. It's mostly our primitive brain that gets really frustrated with this one. So we have to allow urges or desire or wanting of food and not have it. This also means that you don't have to take everything out of your house. Like I have 3 kids and a husband who love Doritos and Oreos and ice cream, and they all eat that stuff. And it's in the house, and I'm not a raging lunatic most times when they're eating it. I just don't have it. Instead of thinking, oh, I want that so bad, I'm just like, I do kind of want it, but I'm not going to have it because you know what I'd rather do? Like zip up my flight suit and have a little extra space in there. It's long underwear season, you guys. Seriously, I have to wear long underwear underneath my flight suit. You need to have room to groove in there. So gotta say no to the ice cream and the Doritos. So we have to allow those urges to just come through us. Here's the good news. If you are a woman and you've had a baby, right? Do you remember having contractions? Like it comes, it gets really intense, and then it always fades away. But the part our brain freaks out about is that we don't know how much the contraction is going to hurt. We don't know when it's going to go away, if it's ever going to go away, and urge is the same thing. It comes and goes in waves. It's like, oh, I feel really intense urge. If you get distracted, you'd kind of forget about it. So we just have to practice allowing that urge or that urgency to eat something or that over desire for it. Okay, and then you for sure can't give into it because every time we answer that desire for food or an urge, I like to call it, every single time you answer that, you create a neural pathway, right? And remember, the brain likes to be very efficient. So it's going to remember that because it knows that it makes it feel good. So it's going to keep doing it and doing it. And you have to not do it several times in order to break that habit. And then we have to practice feeling and allowing negative emotions. Now, sometimes some of us have a hard time experiencing happy emotions too. But for the most part, it's negative emotions like sadness or frustration or boredom or loneliness, right? We use food to make ourselves feel better when we feel those emotions. But what we need to do is experience those. And one of the best ways, I think, to really process, and I'm going to do a Facebook Live on that too, right, is how to actually process emotions. It seems so, I don't know, I can't quite describe it. But a really good way to do it is with writing, journaling, or log booking, as I've done in my other Facebook Lives. So that's the situation, my friends. Those are the 3 reasons and the solution why we overeat. So I can't put my thing back up here, but I'll just recap it for you. So the reasons why we overeat is because of overhunger, which is our hormones, ghrelin, leptin, and insulin. Our over desire, which comes from dopamine in our brain. And the third reason why we overeat is because of our emotions, right? How we feel. We're trying to make ourselves feel better with food. And the solution is to calibrate our hormones, reduce our over desire, and experience our emotions. Now, I created a little freebie PDF for you guys that is a summary of all of this. And you can find that on my website at www.hemscoach.com/quick start guide, all smushed together. And I will just remind you, if you watched my Facebook Live a couple weeks ago where I talked about a holiday action plan, Some of you might have parties tonight. I know I have 2 of them. And so if you're worried about overeating or over drinking, go back and watch those, that Facebook Live, or go ahead and grab the Holiday Action Plan, which is a worksheet that kind of gets you to be thinking about how you want the night to go, what you plan on eating, and what you're going to do when that over desire for the food comes. Because what happens is we have a couple of cocktails, then we're like, oh, a couple bites won't matter, right? So you can get that at my website as well. That's www.hemscoach.com/holiday action plan, all smushed together. There you have it. If you're watching the replay, make sure you say hello. I'll go back and answer questions. If anybody has any questions, I would love to answer those live. And always feel free to email me. If you're not in my private group, go ahead and join that. I try and go in there and write stuff every day. If you are not in EMS or HEMS, you can still join, but you have to answer the questions and like tell me why you want to be in there or what you're trying to learn. So I would love to have you join me in the group. And if you want to, come join me on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when I go in detail about those 3 reasons why we overeat, because it's so fun. I absolutely love talking about that stuff. So I'm going to look over here in the comments, see if anybody has any questions. Kevin, you're sitting at the fast food drive-in. Now, did you get that worksheet that I made on how to plan? So like for those of us that work in an ambulance, sometimes we're on the road all night long or whatever, and we have to stop and get fast food. So I created this worksheet. It's called the Food Resource Worksheet. And you write down the common fast food in your region, right? I get that it's different everywhere. And write what you will decide to eat ahead of time at those places. So we have Culver's here, and I like to get either a veggie burger and French fries. And yes, you can still eat French fries when you're losing weight. Or I get a salad. Yeah, there's lots of other things on the menu, and my partners eat, whatever. But just decide ahead of time. You can eat healthy food at fast food and gas stations. Oh my gosh, you guys. In this area, we have Quick Trip, and so they have amazing healthy options, even in middle of the night, which is so fun. So yeah, totally get that food resource thing worksheet too. And then I think it's a 2-pager, so that's super fun. Let's see. Oh, okay, good. Kevin, you're getting a salad. Protein. Oh, yes. Well, protein raises insulin, and we don't need a ton of protein. Now, if you're a bodybuilder, which Kathy, I don't think that you are, unless you're trying something new, you don't need a lot of protein, right? That's just marketers. That's just people telling us that we need to eat all this protein. It's a total lie. You should eat about, let's see, 6 to 8 ounces of protein a day. Really, it's not that much. What you really should eat the most of is vegetables, then protein, whole grains like quinoa, wheat berries, stuff like that, rice, and some fruit, and fat. Actually, fat is the only thing that doesn't increase insulin. So when I drink coffee in the morning, I put heavy cream in there, and that keeps me on an insulin fast. So then my insulin doesn't go up until I eat my first meal, which is usually around 12 or 1 o'clock. And that kind of talks about that fat adaptation, which I can't wait to do a Facebook Live on, because I'm obsessed with it. Oh yes, to tell your body to dine in, right? I love saying that too. It's like, we think that when we're not eating, that we're like starving. You are not starving, by the way. You have stored fuel on your body. You just need to access it. When we're eating all the time, we just can't do it. And so we like to say, I'm going to dine in on my bat wings or my butt or my belly, because we are still getting fuel for our body. So don't get confused into thinking that you don't. Do I eat before I go to the holiday? Holiday party, or just drink the alcohol when you get there? That's a great question. So for today's two parties, I am actually not eating before I go. So I ate dinner last night at about 5:30, and I haven't eaten anything yet. I've just been drinking some coffee with cream in it, and I probably won't eat anything before I go. So this can get tricky because if I drink alcohol, right, then I'll get like a buzz way faster. So I'll plan to eat when I get there, and I'll focus on vegetables and protein. No fruit. I'm not going to eat any fruit. I'm not going to, because I'm going to eat sugar. I'm going to get a lot of sugar with the alcohol. So just protein and vegetables, and make sure that I'm listening to my body and not overeating. So I'm going to have 4 drinks, 2 at each party, and then I'm going to make sure I drink lots of water in between. And what I usually do is I bring my own sparkling water because I really like sparkling water. And so it kind of looks like a cocktail. If I put a slice of lime in there, and everybody thinks I'm drinking gin and tonics. So that's a great question. For some people, if you're not fat adapted, like I am, you probably do want to eat before you go, and eat something really high in fiber. Like I just heard this. I thought this was amazing. Preload with vegetables. My medical people, right? You can get the funniness of that, right? So preload going to a holiday party with vegetables. In my private Facebook group yesterday, I just posted my mom's famous dill dip recipe, which is the most amazing dip. My kids seriously will not even touch ranch dressing anymore because of this dip. But I make it every week, and I cut up vegetables on the weekends, and I got those Pyrex glass containers, regular ones, and I cut up all the vegetables and I put them in there so that anytime anybody wants vegetables, they just grab one of those, they get the dip, and we eat raw vegetables almost every single day. And so if you're going to a holiday party tonight, I would totally preload on some vegetables. Here's the deal too. Even you can overeat vegetables and still gain weight. But the truth of the matter is we didn't gain weight because we overate vegetables and salads, right? We all gained weight probably because we like sweets, right? We eat cake and cookies, and we put sweetened creamer in our coffee. We drink soda, we drink iced tea, we drink all sorts of high calorie beverages, right? We eat crackers, right? We didn't gain weight because we ate, too many broccoli crowns. I mean, that's the truth. Okay, any other questions? Okay, good, you're getting a salad. I freaking love talking about this stuff. So if you still have other questions, totally put it in the comments, and I will answer any questions, of course. And I will hopefully see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.